Ever seen those ocean tables? The ones that look like they froze time right on a wave?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
That's resin art. And it's
Yeah.
way more than just tables, obviously. We're diving into all things resin today with Andy from Andy's Art Lab as our guide. He's got this awesome blog.
You've seen it?
Yeah, and it's got everything. Different types of resin, safety tips. I even learned a few things.
Well, what's really cool about resin art is that it's chemistry meeting art, right? You're using a chemical reaction to basically transform this liquid resin into a solid piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like, paint just drying. Think of it more like epoxy.
So it's not just sticking things together.
No, you're actually creating a whole new material at a molecular level.
That's so cool. So you're not just sticking stuff together, you're building something totally new. And Andy uses it for all sorts of things. Paintings, sculptures.
Jewelry, even.
Yeah, jewelry. Okay, but hold on, before we get ahead of ourselves. He talks about 3 main types of resin. What's the difference? Is it just like picking your favorite kind of paint?
It's more like choosing the right tool for the job, So think of UV resin like the fast food of resin, if that makes sense.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
It cures super fast under UV light, so it's perfect for those smaller, detailed projects like jewelry. Then there's art resin, which is more like, your trusty acrylic paint.
Versatile. Good for a lot of different things.
Exactly. And then you've got casting resin, and that's the heavy-duty stuff. Imagine using clay to build like a giant sculpture instead of just a little figurine. It's denser, more durable, ideal for those bigger pieces.
Gotcha. So, we've picked our resin. We're ready to go. Time for the fun stuff. Color.
Now we're talking.
Andy's blog mentioned alcohol inks, pigment pastes. He even uses mica powder. Wait, like the stuff in makeup.
Yeah. Mica is just this naturally occurring mineral, gives this shimmer, almost a pearlescent effect, super versatile.
I've never thought about it being in both makeup and resin.
And this is where picking the right resin matters. See, mica powder in clear resin, that'll give you that amazing shimmer. But put it in, say, a resin that's already opaque or colored, you might end up with something that just looks muddy. It's about understanding how things will work together to get the effect you want.
So it's like those baking shows where if you add too much of one thing...
Disaster.
Exactly. You got to be precise. This is fascinating. Okay, we're feeling inspired, ready to get our hands dirty, but Andy has a whole section on safety.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I'm all about safety first, you know me. Like my grandma always said, better safe than sorry.
Wise woman. And resin art, it's rewarding, but you got to be careful. We are dealing with chemicals here. You've really got to understand what you're working with. One of the big things Andy really emphasizes is ventilation.
Yeah, he talks about it a lot. It's not just about, like, comfort while you're working.
No, it's about protecting yourself. You're dealing with fumes, these things called volatile organic compounds.
VOCs, that sounds kind of serious. What are those?
They're gases, basically,
Yeah.
coming from certain liquids and solids like the resin and hardener.
So it's not just the smell.
Well, they can have an odor. But the danger is inhaling them. Think about it. When you smell something strong, you're breathing those tiny particles in. With VOCs, those particles can really irritate your respiratory system. Headaches, dizziness, long-term exposure, even worse.
Wow. Okay, so it's like you don't even know what's happening.
Exactly.
So opening a window is good, but he's also really big on using a respirator, right?
Absolutely. And not just any respirator, one that's rated for organic vapors. It's not about dust, it's about filtering out those VOCs, kind of like wearing a mask during flu season, but for these particles in the air.
And what about goggles and gloves? Those seem like common sense with any art project.
Absolutely, but especially with resin. We talked about that chemical reaction, right? That doesn't just stop when it touches your skin. Direct contact can cause irritation, even allergies for some people. And in your eyes, no, thank you.
No, definitely not.
Not fun.
So we've got our ventilation, respirator, goggles, gloves. What's next on Andy's list?
Mixing. And this is where the science part comes in again. Andy really stresses getting the resin to hardener ratio right. He compares it to baking. Even a little bit off can throw everything off.
Oh, I totally get that. I once tried to, eyeball the measurements for a cake.
Let me guess, it didn't go well.
It was a disaster. So what happens if you mess up the resin and hardener?
Well, too much hardener, and your piece might cure too fast, becomes brittle, could crack.
Yeah.
Too little, it might never fully harden. You're left with a sticky mess.
So it's all about balance.
Exactly. The good news is most kits come with instructions and measuring tools.
That's good to know. Okay, so we've mixed everything. We're feeling good. Are we done with safety yet? He also mentions sanding and polishing.
Ah, good catch. Even after your masterpiece is cured, You got to stay safe. Sanding creates resin dust.
Which we don't want to breathe in.
Exactly. That respirator, your best friend through the whole process.
It's like putting on your safety goggles is just part of the art.
It's part of the process.
Yeah.
And it shows that Andy, he really cares about this stuff. He wants everyone to be able to enjoy it safely.
For sure. It's nice to see someone take it so seriously. What I think's really cool, though, is that even with all this, like, safety stuff, resin art still feels approachable. Like, you don't need a special studio or years of experience to try it.
Right? Anyone can do it, which is awesome. And it speaks to, you don't have to be intimidated. With the right knowledge and being cautious, anyone can create something really unique and beautiful.
Exactly. That's what I love about it. It's like this whole world of possibilities. So we've covered a lot today, the different types of resin, what makes each one special, those crucial safety precautions. For someone listening who's like, all right, I'm interested, where do I even start? What would you recommend?
I'd say first, figure out what kind of resin adventure you want to go on. What are you drawn to? The kind of instant gratification of UV resin, making jewelry, or maybe the versatility of art resin, where you can try all sorts of things. And once you know that, really dive into the details of that specific resin.
Like each one has its own quirks and things.
Exactly. Safety stuff can be different too. And don't be afraid to check out those online resin communities.
Oh, they're the best. So much information and so much inspiration, too.
It's amazing what people are making. So, yeah, dive into the world of resin art, experiment, have fun. Just remember, with the right knowledge, a little bit of caution, you can create some really cool art and stay safe while doing it.
Beautifully said. And that's our deep dive on resin art. We'll catch you next time.